Counting down to Election Day for the May 26th primary runoff races. Pollsters with the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs surveyed 1,200 likely Republican voters to see where they might sway in some of the key races. Mark Jones is a senior research fellow who worked on the poll. He's joining us now to break down the results. Thank you so much for your time, Mark.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Remind us of that methodology that you guys used for the poll. Talk to us about how many people you talked to them, when you talked to them, and how you surveyed them.
We did this via text message to SMS survey, so people get a link to a survey that they then fill out. We surveyed 1,200 people between last Tuesday and Friday.
And these are not just people, Republican voters, right, or self-identified
Right.
Republican voters? Perfect.
These are people, people who are likely to vote in the Republican runoff.
And so obviously the big race is the one everyone's talking about. It's the race for the U.S. Senate. Senator John Cornyn and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's leading in the poll.
Well, so Ken Paxton has a very narrow 3-point advantage, 48% to 45% over John Cornyn, with 7% of voters undecided. That means it's virtually a toss-up with just a slight advantage for Paxton at this point in the race.
And we say virtually a toss-up because of the margin of error. Explain to people, what that really means.
Well, all these surveys have air around them. That is, we make these estimates of 45% or 48%, but any survey has a margin of error around it. Ours is 3%, which effectively means that this result could have been 3 points difference, or it could have been effectively no difference between the two candidates, depending on how you drew the sample. If you drew it, say, 1,000 times, you would get results that range from, say, 6% advantage for Paxton to an effective tie.
Yeah. Arguably the whole reason why we are facing this runoff is because during the primary, there was a third candidate that got, a lot of attention, Congressman Wesley Hunt from Houston. You talked to folks who voted for him during the March primary. Where are they leaning now?
They lean more towards Ken Paxton than John Cornyn. It's not dramatic, but it is a sufficient enough advantage with more than half going towards Paxton and around a third going towards Cornyn, that's actually very much helping Paxton have this narrow 3-point lead above the U.S. Senator.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when I talked to Congressman Hunt, he actually said he and Paxton were virtually the same policy-wise. So I don't think that that's necessarily surprising to see those numbers. One of the things, though, that I do think is interesting is you ask these voters about the issues that matter most to them. This kind of gives us a mindset of where people are and why they say they're going to vote for who they vote for. What's the most important issues for these Republican primary voters?
Well, immigration and border security are right up at the top, as well as inflation and the cost of living, and election integrity, and to a slightly lesser extent, jobs in the economy.
Do you think that with so much attention on the border by President Trump, the numbers, really in his favor in terms of what he's been doing in terms of curtailing unlawful border crossings, is it surprising at all that this is still the #1 issue for a lot of folks?
Well, so especially we're talking about Republican primary voters who are going to turn out in May, which is a pretty rarefied group. It's going to be somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million people. For that group, immigration and border security remains a top issue. It's not as strong an issue as it was, say, a year ago or in, say, November of 2024, but it's still a leading issue. Although as we approach November, that immigration is going to fade as an issue for the overall electorate compared to inflation, the cost of living, jobs in the economy.
Yeah, and those gas prices, if this conflict in Iran continues. The other big race I want to ask you about is for Texas Attorney General. You have Congressman Chip Roy, State Senator Mays Middleton. Where are folks leaning in the poll on that race?
Well, there we find a more substantial lead by Mays Middleton over Chip Roy of 9 percentage points, with Middleton not having a lock-on victory, far from it, but in a very good position as we're only 3 weeks away from Election Day. One potential liability for Middleton, though, is that more than 1 out of 4 Republican primary voters don't know enough about him to have an opinion, and that means there's a potential, albeit relatively small, for Chip Roy to define Middleton in such a negative way via attack ads that his numbers begin to drop and Roy's able to catch up to him. But right now, we'd have to say that Mays Middleton is in a very good position as we look towards May 26.
Yeah, of course, and there's a big number of folks still unsure about how they're going to vote in that race. Mark Jones is with the U of H Hobby School of Public Affairs. We thank you again for your time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.